This is Luke Dort, and I'm down to dunk. This is Luke Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
I'm Josh Giddey, and I'm down to dunk.
Hey, this is Kenny Hustle, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Darius Baisley, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Mike Muscala, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Poku, and I'm down to dunk.
I love cereal. Captain Crunch, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Cracklin' Oat Bran.
Oh, I can have these. I'm gonna share with my team, but I'm gonna hog most of it.
Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schleck. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. Go to theathletic.com/down to dunk and get the Athletic for $1 a month for 6 months. It's basically free. You should do that today. Do that right now with me. As always, on Wednesdays is my good friend, Alex Spears. Alex, what's up?
What's up, Andrew? Jake Aaron in the chat started us off with more like Teo Maladont.
If you were to bet $300 today, a decent amount, an amount that would at least hurt you just a little bit, what would you say that it would? Is Teo going to be on the team next year or not?
Okay, so like on the one hand, today we're going to talk a little bit about Poku and Bays, two guys who earlier in the season I was close to. I basically gave up on both of them, at least for one episode of a podcast.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
So I don't want to make the same mistake again, and so I'm going to be a little bit more hesitant. But I think we can all acknowledge Teo has been terrible, like
consistently
awful. And yes, he's had a few good games this season mixed in there where we get a little excited. But the only thing that's making me feel like I could bet that he won't be on the team is just because of the roster crunch thing. Yeah, because it felt like there was still going to be room for him last year no matter what. Plus, like, we actually felt pretty good about him during this kind of stretch in the season. Yeah. Although if you go back and look at the stats, it's not actually that good. But at the time, because he was getting more playing time, Shea wasn't in there. Yeah. Like, you could talk yourself into, like, he's a rookie. Like, even though the stats don't look great, like, he's doing a lot of things on the court. Whereas this year, like, both the eye test and looking at the stats, like, it's been very, very rough.
It's ugly. It's definitely
very
ugly.
rough. And he still has, like, the problem with him is, like, similar to Poku. Like, when Poku was at his worst, he still had his flash plays. But Poku's flash plays are, like, special. They get you excited.
It's because he's 7 feet. And
whereas
Teo's a normal sized person.
Teo, like, to his credit, I was rewatching the Charlotte game. Like, he hit a couple of nice, like what do you call them? I was about to say throw ahead passes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hit ahead. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Couldn't think of the word. That looked nice.
Yeah. He's not bad. Like, I think as a EuroLeague player, he's a good player.
Yeah, like he has flashes. They're just muted compared to someone like Poku. And so you don't, like, hold on to them as strongly as you do for a player like Poku. But yeah, it's been rough for Teo. No doubt about it. Will he be on the team next year? I mean, he's probably got a better chance than some of the guys, like, at the end of the roster.
Yeah. Him or Lindy, a better chance of being on the roster next year.
Probably Teo.
Okay. That's probably right. Teos feels like somebody that needs to go get a lot of experience in Europe, and then maybe he can come back when he's like 28. And he's just like a solid player that can hit a spot up three and handle if you need him to, kind of guy.
Yeah, it also just, I mean, he's clearly not like last year. He was given the keys to the offense like during this time. Like, who else was there? It was like
it was he and Poku, man.
Yeah, so
Poku show.
And that was probably better for him because obviously he projected. I mean, we're talking about him as like, okay, this is your backup point guard of the future. Going to come in. He's steady. He can run an offense. He gets a little bit of those opportunities now, but it is not like the main part of his game. Like most of the time, he's being played as an off-ball player.
Right.
I mean, he was in the starting lineup with Shea. So like he's not getting the ball there most of the time.
Nope.
He still has opportunities, obviously, but it's. Yeah, I feel like he would do better somewhere where they actually want him to be a point guard.
Yeah. I mean, he played 31 minutes in that game, and I remember maybe 2 minutes of those 31.
Yeah. It's been rough.
It's been rough.
Although, as we'll get to, it was way rougher for Poku in comparison earlier this season, because we're going to do some comparison early season. Current for Poku.
Yes.
Poku hit some marks early in this season that are like not NBA player caliber.
Yeah. Scary numbers. Where did they just what all did they waste to get Poku? The thoughts that you start having. A lot of this will depend on how many guys they take in this draft too, and where they select in the draft and who they get. I think that then you're going to have to make some decisions. And the Thunder are in this spot where even if obviously we want them to move up or we want them to stay at 4 or wherever they're going to be.
Yeah.
There's a chance they move back. And there's some interesting options. I posed this question yesterday, but I'm going to add a little bit to it. If you had the chance, let's say the Thunder were deciding between AJ Griffin, Keegan Murray, and Jalen Duren at the spot that they're at, is there any of those 3 that you would prefer today?
So this is like they fall to 6.
We'll
say that Shaedon Sharpe isn't an option.
Yeah, let's say that they fall to 6 and Shaedon goes 5.
Yeah. Jalen Duren is interesting.
Yeah.
And I like him.
Yeah.
And I see the upside with him, and I shouldn't be worrying about fit at this point. But I can't help but worry a little bit about fit. Unless he eventually does develop a shot, and maybe some people are confident that he will eventually develop a shot. But you look at his shot chart and it's just like red hot around the basket, which is fine because we've talked about how nice it would be to have a like high level play finisher on this team. Like it's not just about shooting, but I still am worried about the shooting on this team. Keegan Murray, what do you think about him? Because I'm biased. I don't like old guys. this high.
That's
old. What it is.
He's old.
And I know that that's a terrible argument because people are there's plenty of examples you can give. How old is he currently? Is he still going to be 21?
He's 21. He will be, I think, before he starts he'll be 22 by the time he's a rookie in the NBA.
And we've gone through this before, but the list of guys who are successful taken in the lottery at that age, there are examples, but they're almost all point guards. It's like CJ and Dame. I think Kemba is one.
Yep.
So there are examples, but it tends to be smaller guards. So that would scare me a little bit if you're taking him at like 6.
Yeah, it's hard to ignore how good he's been.
I feel like it's gone too far though. Like I see people talking about taking him over Banchero now, which I'm not even the biggest Banchero fan, but what do you think Paolo would be doing 2 years from now at Duke?
It's a good question. He would probably be destroying the league in 2 years. Yeah. Where And Keegan, like to his credit, has been probably the best player in college basketball, like one of the best players in college basketball. He's shooting the ball like crazy. He's 23.5 points per game, 8.6 rebounds, 1.5 assists, 2 blocks, over a steal a game. And I mean, you can, as a Thunder fan, watching him, you can see like, oh my goodness, like he would fit with this team really well. He would, with this current iteration of the team, if you had Shea, Giddey, Dort, Murray, whoever at center, Baisley at center, like it's like, oh wow, okay, like you can see it because he's a real shooter, a real one. He can shoot it from deep. He can catch it he can catch it on the move, like coming off a screen and hit. He can actually get some off the dribble too. He can attack a closeout. He's not the greatest athlete, which would like hilariously fit this group. However, I don't know that I see Sam taking somebody that high that's that old either.
Yeah, and especially, if you've listened to enough draft podcasts at this point, when people are being honest and not just trying to like get clicks on their podcast, like most people like aren't in love with this draft. In fact, like they don't, like after a certain point, they really feel like the difference between whatever number and like 40 isn't that big of a range, and that you're kind of just
9 or 10, and you're like, I don't know. Like,
and so taking a 22-year-old in that draft at like pick 6, like it feels like you're just falling into this trap of getting really excited about this guy in what most people think is a below average draft, which is why like out of those 3, like I think I would favor AJ Griffin, even knowing how streaky he has been in production wise.
Yeah, I think that's what I would do too. And also because the wing is still such a premium in the league, and the Thunder don't have any wings, like true wings. They don't have any.
And even if you're worried about his shot because he has like the super wide base, like at least there's something to start with. This isn't
he's
like
making them. Like he's making. Yeah. He's hit. I don't remember what the percentage is, but he's hit a high percentage of his threes, and he's streaky. But also, this Duke team has so many options that if he played for Arkansas or somebody like that, what would his production look like there? And he is really young. He's younger than Shaedon Sharpe. AJ Griffin is. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's.
Oh, now I really like him.
I know he's 2 months younger than Shaedon Sharpe. So he
won't turn 19 until August.
Yeah, he's Josh Giddey young. 48. Thank you, Tyler Nevins. 48% from 3. Where you need a play finisher and a guy that can grow with this group. I mean, I don't know that I would bet that you could even get odds on Keegan Murray being the best player in this draft. I bet you could on AJ Griffin. Bet you could. Because if he's already shooting like that, like what can he be? Now, there are injury concerns with AJ Griffin too that you have to consider. But there's some interesting guys in this range, I guess is my point.
There's some interesting guys, but I'd also just be like really down.
Yeah.
Like just being honest, like I already am not thrilled about this draft, and so to fall out of that range, like this isn't like last year where like everyone going in is like pumped about this draft.
Yeah.
And even if it felt like a 4-player or 5-player draft, like you still felt like people were talking about how deep it was, even if they didn't feel like there were a ton of stars after that point.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this year, like, man, if you fall out of whatever you think it is, top 4, top 5, top 6, I don't know. I feel like you're just talking yourself into someone.
This is a year where the scouting matters tremendously.
Yeah. And I mean, we're going to trust whatever Presti
does and his team does in this draft. I would very much trust, because it's going to be about what work did you put in and how well do you know these guys. And I trust that they will know who these guys are, and there will be a lot of teams that won't. I mean,
if they pick Keegan Murray, like, how would you not be excited? Because it's like, okay, if they believe in this guy who's older and they're going against what they typically draft, because they typically draft super young guys, then they must feel like he has a chance to be a star. Yeah. Otherwise, they wouldn't take him.
Yeah. I think that this draft would probably be, and it's probably a little bit better at the top than the 2013 draft, but I think it will be similar in that you hit like 11 or 12, and it's like, I don't know who's going to be good out of this group. And the draft results showed that nobody knew. Tim Hardaway Jr. went 24th in that draft, where he should have gone in the lottery easily. Rudy Gobert was in that draft. Andre Robertson, the Thunder took Andre Robertson at 26, and nobody knew what Andre Robertson was going to be. Ended up being a really good, helpful player for the Thunder. People just didn't know. Shabazz Muhammad went 14th. Michael Carter Williams 11, Trey Burke 9. I mean, I think it will be similar to that, where we look back, 6 or 7 years from now and be like, holy crap! Like, look at, there's just nobody knew. Anthony Bennett went number 1. Like, that was obviously the weirdest one, but it's just like all over the place. People just didn't know.
I just look at like Danny Morang, who does like the Blazers podcast out here. Like, obviously the Blazers are trying to tank unsuccessfully, and he's been talking about, he has a few tweets like watching Benedict Mathurin?
Mathurin, I think is right.
Okay, and a few other guys in that range, and it's just like those guys may turn out great, but like that's not why you tank. You don't tank to draft someone like Benedict Mathurin or any of these guys that we're talking about. Like, the reason you tank is to get the guys at the top who you feel like have not just star potential, but superstar potential.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, I'm not going to get excited about that question, like Keegan Murray, just because I don't. Yeah. That's not why you do this. You don't do this to draft those types of players.
That's exactly right. Those are the guys that I mentioned they'll profile as role players. Like,
and maybe one of them busts out and becomes a star, and that's great.
Yeah.
And that would be really exciting. But you don't go through all of this to end up at 7 so you can take one of these guys. So I refuse to get excited about any of them.
Yeah.
Because it's a failure just to be in that position.
I agree. Yeah, you do all of this so you can draft Chet, Jabari, Apollo, or Jaden Ivey. If you got one of those 4, I think that you are excited, no matter which one it is. Just because the opinions on all 4 of them vary depending on what expert you listen to. And like, it's just crazy how many experts have different opinions on all these guys.
Yeah. This draft in particular, you're going to see, especially with, if you look at mock drafts, and somebody's going to do like a consensus mock draft and have like highest, lowest, like some of these guys are going to have really wide ranges.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see. I think those 4 can all be kind of jumbled up, but like Shaedon Sharpe will probably have a wide range if and when he enters the draft. I don't think anybody knows what to do with him. I mean,
and there's still going to be like one of these guys that's now projected in like the late lottery or mid lottery is going to rise up. It happens every year.
Yeah,
we don't know who it's going to be, and at least this year we have like a real tournament.
Yeah,
I mean, we had a tournament last year, but it's
just
we're going to have a tournament. You're getting the full cycle, so you're going to have some player like that.
Mm-hmm.
I remember in the Donovan Mitchell draft, we were talking about him. There was like a split second where it felt like, oh, he might fall to the Thunder's pick, and then like immediately it was like, okay, no chance that we're Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, he was McKelly and I's guy for a minute at 21, and then he's gone. Shame. The Thunder play the San Antonio Spurs tonight. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is listed as questionable with right ankle soreness. So there we go. Good job, everybody. Lou Dort, Derek Favors, Josh Giddey, Ty Jerome, Mike Muscala, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, and Kenneth Williams are all out. We are supposed to be getting an update on Josh Giddey in the next few days. I think tomorrow is like 2 weeks to the day. There's been no decision made on what they're going to do with him yet, so it'll be interesting to see what they've decided. And then we have gotten zero updates on Kenrich Williams, which just feels like a lever to me. I mean, it almost feel weird if they brought him back at this point, but I actually have heard from somebody that they think he's coming back, but I don't know if that's true or not. And then the Spurs are missing Keita Bates-Diop, Romeo Langford, which I forgot he was on their team, is out with a hamstring strain. Doug McDermott's out. A guy named DJ Stewart is on a two-way, and Robert Woodard is on the Spurs. He's another two-way player. Did you know that? Didn't know that.
Did not know that.
So
Yeah,
there you go.
The Spurs are so weird because you could make an argument that they're one of the more disappointing teams this season. Like if you just look at their point differential, they have a better point differential than the Clippers. Like they've played in close games this entire year.
Mm-hmm.
But then I saw in the Indiana game they rested DeJounte Murray. So it's like, oh, so they don't want to win. Like they have a chance. Like you're only, what is it? They're 2 games back of the Pelicans, who have had all these issues. Brandon Ingram's out, and CJ might now be coming back from COVID protocols. Like you're only 2 games back, and you're resting DeJounte Murray.
Yeah.
So like they're tanking, obviously.
The game what back of 6th in the reverse standings from Sacramento. So
yeah, so I find them very confusing because I just assumed part of it was Pop's going for the all-time wins, which he already got at this point. But I just thought, well, they're never going to like truly tank. And when I saw that Indiana game, I was just like, I don't know what to think anymore. And which they lost. Like it was a very good game for them to lose if you are tanking.
Yeah.
Because that's a team that you actually have a real kind of realistic shot. You're still 3 wins up on them.
Yeah.
So I don't know how realistic it is, but
yeah,
I'm just kind of confused by the Spurs in general. So we'll see what they do tonight because like, good luck trying to tank against us. Also, you guys play Portland twice. Good luck.
Yeah.
Like all these teams trying to just deciding to tank.
I know.
Get with it. What are you doing? You're wasting your time. What do you think's going to happen?
I know. Portland.
They play them 3 times. They play Portland 3 times. Good luck winning one of those. Or I guess losing one of those.
Yeah, which is winning. Yeah, losing is winning right now. Yeah, Portland. The Thunder are up 6.5 games on Portland now, which is kind of amazing with the roster that they have right now. They've actually had Portland's had a better record over the last 10 games than the Thunder have. Which
every Portland win feels like 10 wins for them. Like when they beat the Wizards, it's just like, what the hell are you doing?
And what else could they have done? I mean, you read the name,
nothing,
and it's like, what is? I mean, this is where Chauncey. It's like, I'm going to show my coaching chops now.
But also, this is where, like,
oh boy,
I mean, we've talked about this with the Thunder. Like, there's no more levers to pull. Like, you reach a point where you do feel like, okay, we have done enough to lose.
Yeah,
if the team wins, there's really nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
When you're in a position like OKC where they have 20 wins, a win here or there isn't going to kill you. But when you're in Portland's position now at 26 wins, like every win is just killing you. And they still haven't even started that stretch, which we talked about earlier. And it's coming up. It starts this Sunday. Very exciting. Indiana, Detroit, San Antonio, Houston, OKC, New Orleans, San Antonio, OKC, New Orleans. Like, even as terrible as they are, it's going to be hard to come out of that 0-11.
It is. And if they win a few of those games, they could find themselves at like 10th or 11th.
They could. Like they could easily go 2-9. Like that gets you up to 28 wins. And like now there's really no chance you're catching Indiana at that point. Like you're probably not going to be catching the Kings, even though the Kings just won.
Yeah, probably not.
Because I think they're like 4 losses back of the Kings right now.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
So yeah, I would be pissed if I was a Portland fan because again, they had the same record as OKC on January 1st. Mm-hmm. This could have gone a lot of different ways, and they just blew it in January by not pulling levers soon enough.
Yep.
Playing Nurk and way too long.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're paying for it, and they could still jump up into this. I'll be moot, and it's good for the Portland. They got the second pick or whatever.
True.
But
True.
It's bad process to me. They took way too long to get here.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. And the fact that they won so much after those trades too is like, oh boy.
Yeah.
What's wild is that they're only 2.5 games up on the Lakers. The Blazers are. Like, that just is unbelievable that the Lakers are 10 games under 500.
Dude, and you watch them, and it's like, I don't know how many more games they're really going to win. Because their schedule, like, they have some teams, like, actually they have OKC.
Yeah.
Every other team, I'm looking over their schedule, is at least in the play-in. Oh, they play Washington. Every other team other than OKC and Washington is at least in the play-in. And you're getting like Denver twice, Dallas, Utah, Golden State, Philly, Cleveland, Toronto, Minnesota.
Oh my
Like,
God.
it's not out of the realm of possibility that they only win like 3 or 4 games the rest of the season, and they'll probably still stay in the play-in because nobody wants to be in the play-in in the West,
Right.
other than New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the Spurs, and I know they don't want to, but it's not like over for them.
It's not at all, and even if they want it to be over, it may not be over because of their schedule. Like, they may want this to be done.
Yeah.
But again, you have 3 games against Portland. If they just win those 3 games,
You win those 3,
and they play Houston again.
Wow. And Houston's like all in on being the worst.
That would take them to, if they won those 4 games, that'd take them to 30 wins. Who cares what they do in the rest of the games? Like, that's why I almost feel like when you're the Spurs, and it's so hard for you to lose.
Yeah.
Like, why not just go for it?
Yeah.
You're so close.
Yeah. I think I agree with that. That's crazy. All right, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side of this, we're going to talk about some stats. And we're back after that quick break. Alex, the Thunder are 2-8 since the All-Star break. They rank 30th in defense, 28th in offense, 29th in net rating. They're minus 15.6, only to be outdone by the Portland Trail Blazers, who have a negative 23.2 net rating since the All-Star break. Alex, the Thunder before the All-Star break had a 51% true shooting. What do you think it is post All-Star break?
51%.
51%
before.
Yeah.
Okay. 45.
56% true shooting since the All-Star break, Al.
Oh, so the offense is humming.
It's humming. They actually have like a 106 offensive rating since the break.
Yeah.
I was going to run through some big team stats, and then we're going to go through some other stats for specific players. But Alex, in the restricted area on the entire season, the Thunder are 59.6%. That's last in the NBA. Where do you think they rank post All-Star break? So they were in 30th. Where did they rank post All-Star break?
What is this field goal percentage?
In the restricted area.
Oh, in the restricted area. I bet they're in the teens now.
They're actually 9th in the NBA.
I was going to say,
in
because
the restricted area.
I mean, I did a deep dive on Bays and Poku, so I know that they've improved around the rim.
Yeah.
But also Trey Mann's finishing at the rim has started to come up. It's still not good, but it's not in the 30s anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you have Shea,
you have Shea.
like, there's a lot of guys finishing at the rim. I mean, even Roby's been finishing at the rim too, so that kind of makes sense.
67.6%. That's up from 59% in the restricted area. Kind of crazy.
Okay.
In the paint non-restricted area shots, they were 12th in the league, 43%. What do you think they are post All-Star break?
They were 12th. I would imagine that has that gone down.
It's gone up, but they're still 12th in the league. They went from 43% to 45%, so about the same. In the mid-range, Al, They were ranked 20th on the season, 39.3% in the mid-range. What do you think they are in the mid-range post All-Star break?
Maybe top 10.
They're number 2 in the NBA
mid-range.
in the mid-range post All-Star break. They're shooting 52.4%. They jumped 13.
Who is that?
Shea, baby.
Who is it? Just Shea? Because I don't feel. Actually, Poku has done some interesting things.
He's had some pull-ups. Yeah,
considered the short mid-range, but
yeah.
Okay.
It's wild. From the left corner, they are last in the NBA on the season, 32.2%. Where do you think they rank since the All-Star break?
Top 15.
They're 26th. They're actually shooting worse from the left corner, 28.9% from the corner, left corner. From the right corner, they rank 20th in the league on the season, 36%. Where do you think they are from the right corners post All-Star break?
The same.
28th. They're much, much worse. 23.7% from the right corners. They're just not hitting corner threes at all.
I guess part of that is Dort is one of the best corner three shooters on the team.
Yep.
He's not playing.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Kenrich, Muscala. I mean, Muscala takes a lot of above the break threes, but
Does.
Those guys are good 3-point shooters. So I don't even know who it is. I mean, one of the things I'll get into is that Poku doesn't take very many corner threes, even though he's been good at them. So I guess that's a lot of Teo because he does take corner threes.
It's a lot of Teo.
Yeah, and Bays, who even with his improvement has not his corner three percentage has not improved in this little recent run.
Yeah, that's definitely a big chunk of the corner threes. And then Trey doesn't take a ton of corner threes, but he's not great from the corners either. And then Veet, who had a nice shooting game too, is another guy that takes corner threes and is missing them right now. And then above the break, Thunder are last in the league at 30.9% on the season. What do you think they are since the All-Star break?
A little bit higher.
A little bit higher, 34%. They ranked 20th since the All-Star break. So I think a lot of that's Shea improving there. Also, Roby's hit some of his above the break threes too when he's played. So, all right, that's it. Those are my since the All-Star break stats. I thought that was kind of interesting, especially the restricted area stuff where they just were horrible and now they're top 10.
And a lot of that, don't you think, has to do with we're just playing more offensive-minded players than we were previously?
I also think everything is simplified. It's Shea, and he's going to create almost everything for everybody.
Yeah.
And it just makes everybody has very simple jobs, where before they were still, even with guys like Bazley and Poku, and then you add Dort, and then you add Giddey, it's and Trey, it's everybody's still trying to figure out who they are and how they're going to be used. And they still have a lot of room to spread their wings, which means we're going to screw up a lot. It's code for we're okay with screwing up.
And this is happening across the league too. I mean, offensive, official, everything is up.
It's been an explosion. And I talked about it a little bit on Slam and Jam that there's so many guys averaging 30 plus and then 25 plus after the break, where something's happening out there where it's just easier to play offensive basketball.
So I wanted to dive into Bays and Poku because obviously, I mean, we can still talk about Shea, but it feels like Shea's kind of reached the level that he's at, and he's been continuing to play that way.
Yeah.
I feel like Trey Mann has kind of reached whatever level he's at for this current rookie season, and he's continued to play that way. So it feels like the two guys who are really changing right now are Bays and Poku.
Yeah.
And so for Bays, so I went on Cleaning the Glass, and I had to choose some date to split this, which obviously it's arbitrary. I decided to choose January 28th, which isn't as far back as you might think, because you could go all the way back to the middle of December when he started coming off the bench. But what's been interesting about this recent stretch is he's actually been starting. And we talked for a long time, like, are his powers, do they only work when he comes off the bench? But this recent stretch he's been having, most of it has been coming with him starting. So I chose the 28th instead.
Okay.
So this is when I'm mentioning stats, these are all comparing pre-January 28th to post-January 28th. And just as a very basic thing, double-digit scoring games. Pre-January 27th, 16 out of his 42 games. After that, 15 out of his 21 games.
Okay.
So it's happening a lot more often. Obviously, he's getting more playing time.
Mm-hmm.
He's taking 2 more shots per game. His points per shot attempt, which they just do total points. So this is like if you gave Bays 100 possessions to take a shot, how many points would he score on those 100 possessions? Beginning of the season, 95.8, which is awful.
Bad.
That is in the 12th percentile for his position group. He's now up to 107.9. Still not amazing, but he's in the 29th percentile. But just as a general marker, things are improving.
Yeah, respectable. Yeah.
One of the things that I noticed just watching is, and this shows on the stat, is his passing. The assist percentage is up, and it's not like a huge amount, but he's not. You're not looking at him as like a main playmaker on the team. So for him to jump from 7% assist percentage to 9.3%, which is going from the 27th percentile to 49th percentile, seems like a big deal. And where I think that shows up is you don't see as much anymore those plays where Bays gets the ball passed to him out but beyond the 3-point line.
Mm-hmm.
No one's rushing to close out on him because they're not worried about his shot. And he kind of just would stand there because he wasn't super confident in his own shot. So he didn't really want to take the 3. And he would rather drive, but no one's closing out on him to attack the closeout. So you either get this like very delayed 3, which usually would miss, or he would just go ahead and drive, even though the defender was like already sitting back and ready for him. You don't see those plays as much anymore. And there were multiple times in the Charlotte game where he got the ball passed to him, immediately swung it to another player.
Yes.
And when he's getting the ball, whether it's in the corner, if he's not swinging it, he is immediately shooting it.
Yeah.
He's becoming much quicker with his decision making.
Way more decisive on cuts, on pass, like everything. And his like raw stats pre and post All-Star break: 9.8 points, 6.6 rebounds, 1.3 assists to 12, 6, and 2. Still only 1 block a game. And he's shooting a little bit better from 3s, 29% pre-All-Star break, 31% post-All-Star break.
And I think that's kind of what you were looking for, because everything about Bays, and we had talked about this, like you could see him thinking on the court all the time. Oh, yeah. Whether it was on his drives where they were like so slow and herky-jerky, like the defender was just kind of like sitting back and waiting for an opportunity to like screw up his drive. Like they were never really surprised by what Bays was doing.
Right.
Or like when he was take those threes and he would just be sitting there thinking for like a legitimate 2 seconds and then would decide to shoot it. Like everything had so much thought behind it, whereas now it feels like he's just way more reactive. He knows what he should be doing, and he's actually doing those things. He's not having to think about it. It's coming more natural. And I think that more than any of these stats, I mean, I feel like some of this is showing up in the stats, but that more than anything else makes you excited, because that's something that is bigger than him just getting hot from 3 for a short little stretch.
Yeah. Bays has actually been kind of great, like post game. I was just asking him what has it been like essentially to be a Thunder player these last few years, and how do you've developed a lot since he got here. He's like this blank slate of a player when he got here to what he's doing today, which is like he's improved. He's not like some like awesome player or anything, but he's become a functional NBA player. And I've just asked him what that process has been like, and he said that they essentially prepare and lay out everything for you, from the meals you eat to your fitness plan to everything. He said the organization sets you up to be the most successful player you could be. He's like, all you have to do is show up and be ready to work. And he said that he feels like they set up like the perfect environment for guys to do that. And, he said then it's kind of up to you on whether you get there or not. And he is like fully willing to admit that he's like way far away from what he should be or wants to be. But I thought that was interesting.
Another stat that kind of goes along with this idea of Bazley just playing more within the offense, reacting more rather than thinking, is his assisted percentage at the rim. So this means of his field goal attempts at the rim, how many of those are assisted?
Yeah.
Do those come from a pass from another player?
Mm-hmm.
Pre-January 28th, 59%. That's gone up to 71%.
Yeah.
And that's huge because that 59% being low, that's accounting for like all of those beige drives at the beginning of the year where he's starting out the 3-point line and he's driving to the rim. It's usually not going to work out. It's an unassisted attempt. He's like doing so many other things with the ball that he shouldn't be.
Yeah. To
now where he's cutting a lot more. And so you're getting more of those assists when he is having to attempt at the rim. And he still has his drives, but I do feel like the drives are getting more compact, more like he knows what he wants to do more.
Yes.
On those drives than previously. Like even that he had that really nice drive against Charlotte where he drove at Mason Plumlee, went under the rim into like the underhanded layup.
Yep.
Or the reverse layup. I thought that was really nice. And because it made sense from beginning to end. Yep. Like Plumlee was there, so he made a quick decision to go around underneath the hoop.
Mm-hmm.
That's the type of stuff that gets you excited, as opposed to when he does like all this herky-jerky stuff and maybe he makes it, but that's not really exciting because like nothing about that feels reproducible. Like it feels like all of his drives were something wildly different every single time.
Yeah.
It seems like he just has more focus on his drives right now.
Yeah. He's starting to simplify things, which has needed to happen for a while, but you know, you don't see it, and he did it once in the Charlotte game, but there's most of the time you don't see him like trying to cook somebody. Like he's just quick, you know.
Yeah, and it's important to point out it's not like he's perfect because he had a drive where he drove in to the Hornets and they just like slapped the ball away from him like very easily.
Yeah.
And it was one of those plays, and maybe it's as much as like him facing the basket versus like coming off of a pass from the wing. Mm-hmm. I feel like when he's at the top of the key and starts driving towards a basket, like it's probably not going to end up good. But when he's cutting or he's coming in from the side, it just seems like those angles work better for him.
Yeah, like just like the alley-oop play from Shea.
Yeah, for sure.
It happened to coincide with Michael Cage talking about how Montrezl Harrell was Shaq.
Yeah, that's funny.
Such a funny, like the whole clip is funny, but the fact, I mean, I don't remember a ton of lob plays, and he should be a guy that you have lob plays for, but I can't think of a ton of other times that he's been a guy that's made the right cut for a lob. You know, that's just
he should be the most obvious lob candidate.
Yeah, without a doubt. And it's just also really funny. And Shea like did this like right in front of us at the game, but he still like finds joy within this like horrific losing streak that they're in, you know, in moments like that where he's like doing these like little bunny hops after he knows that somebody's gonna do something good. So I thought that was kind of cool.
So if you look at his shooting accuracy, and by the way, this is all from Cleaning Glass, so they're filtering out garbage time, which probably is significant for the Thunder. At the rim, shot 54% pre-January 28th, up to 63%. Corner threes has not changed. He's still not a good corner three-point shooter, 31% versus 30%, where all of the gains are being made right now in terms of three-point shooting is above the break threes.
Yeah.
25% pre-split, 38% post-split.
Interesting.
And that's the part where, like, I don't believe it yet. Like, it's great that it's happening, but I don't believe it. Because if you look at his free throw shooting, like, he's still shooting below 70%.
Yeah.
Even in this good stretch, he's shooting 68%. So, like, that's the part that he needs to, like, convince me that, like, he's actually becoming a shooter. Because him just randomly shooting better on above the break threes, but not seeing his corner threes improve at all. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, his free throw shooting isn't improving at all. That feels like just an outlier right now.
And his role is going to be corner threes if he's gonna make
Right.
it in the league. You gotta hit those corner threes. Like that's what you need from this like versatile, big man is essentially what he's gonna be for his career. It's like the corner is where you're gonna make your money.
And where this all worries me is his mechanics still look so slow.
Mm-hmm.
Like even when he gets past and I say that he shoots it immediately, it's still like this isn't Anthony Moore out there, just like quick firing. Like it takes him a second to get the ball and shoot it, which works right now because no one is ever closing out on him.
Yeah. Which is a problem.
Which means that he's getting like all these wide open threes. He can take his time and he's still not like doing well on those corner threes. So for him to get better, it's not just him shooting better from the corners. It's okay, once you're shooting better from the corners, like let's say in a dream world, he got up to 40% from corner threes. He's eventually going to start getting guarded. So now it's like, okay, can you do that when you're getting contested?
Right.
Because there's still so far to go for me on his 3-point shooting that like him shooting 38% on this recent stretch above the break isn't really that exciting. It's good. You want to start seeing that improvement, but there's so many caveats there.
Is his defense valuable enough to you to keep him around as your like fourth big?
I guess if you surrounded him with the right piece, talking about surrounding bays, we got to build around bays. But if he was surrounded with complementary pieces, where even if he doesn't become a good shooter, you can still function offensively, then I think it's fine. I mean, the thing I was about to bring up, so his block percentage and foul percentage. So you obviously want block percentage to be high, you want foul percentage to be low. He is in the 90th percentile for the season in both of those.
Yeah.
That is very rare. There are only 3 other players in the league who are in the 90th percentile. And again, this is per position. So Bays gets, I think he's either a wing or a big, but he gets put with those groups of players. So the percentile is related to them. Yeah. The only other 3 who are 90th percentile in both block and foul percentage, which means these guys are getting a ton of blocks, but not fouling when they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Davis makes sense.
Yeah.
Andre Iguodala makes sense. Jeremy Lamb.
That's weird.
Doesn't make sense.
I don't believe that.
I mean, maybe makes sense. I don't really I haven't had a strong opinion on Jeremy Lamb in many years. But he
doesn't foul.
Yeah, he doesn't foul, and he's obviously developed into a pretty nice shot blocker. Now he's come down a little bit from earlier in the season where he was blocking everything.
Yeah.
But that's still a strength of his game on defense. So that's just like a Bays overview. I think that as with all of these players, you have to put it in the context of what part of the season we're in. This is the tanking season.
Yeah.
And you don't want to take too much away from this time of the season. Yeah. But there are still things, even going back further than January 28th, that make you feel like Bays is starting to figure some things out. And arguably, a lot of those things are more eye test than they are stats. Like, I really do think that the biggest stat is that assisted percentage at the rim. The fact that he's taking less of these ISO possessions and he's finishing plays more from others.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. If you could lock Baisley up with a singular special today, would you do
Wasn't that 5 years?
5 years, $25 million.
Well, I know. I don't think you need to know. No,
okay.
5. I don't think any.
What about 3 years? How about 4 years with a team option in the last year?
So 3 plus 1.
Mm-hmm.
$5 million a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think that's a positive contract now. Like if you're looking to trade it, like I think it's because like when you have a guy like Bays who we've said a lot of nice things about him, but on the other hand, like every team across the league has guys like this that are like still figuring out, but you're seeing flashes.
Yeah.
Like it's rare for those guys to become values on their next contract, even if it feels like a small contract. Like who wants to commit 3 more years other than us who have watched Bays like for the last 3 years? Who wants to commit 3 years to
I don't
Darius
know.
Baisley right now.
Yeah, I don't really want to do it.
And that's
depends on
why
who you
like
can draft too.
it does.
But I do see value in him as a versatile defender off the bench, as a guy that when you want to go small, when he's 25 or 26 and bulked up a little bit, I mean, like that could be a kind of an interesting guy to just have coming off your bench, for a good team that like give me a 10-minute stretch where you're going to defend, we're going to switch everything,
Yeah.
kind of deal. Like I could see it. However, he's got to be someone that hits a corner three, and he's got to play with a little bit more toughness on the defensive end, because like you think of him as like not in as big a role as PJ Tucker was, but in that kind of role, but like off the bench for 15 minutes, where it's just like, hey, you're going to come in, you're going to defend like a dog, and you're going to hit corner threes. And okay, like there's a role for a guy like that in the league, especially, and like $5 million is a lot less today than it was back when they signed Singler. I mean, it'd be like 8 to 10 million today, probably more.
Yeah, it's not a bad deal at all. It's just I feel like we're kind of anchoring ourselves to Bays because he's already part of the team. We already know who he is.
Yeah.
Like it's entirely possible that there's another player they could get that is definitely better than Bays for $5 million a year, and we're just not thinking about it because we're so focused on this team. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I do worry about that sometimes when we're thinking about these players.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they have Jeremiah that we just don't talk about because we haven't seen him play because he's been hurt.
Right. Yeah.
But, like, why wouldn't it just be him? And if they could draft Chet Holmgren and Jalen Duren in this next draft, and you're like, oh, well, nope, no extension for Baisley.
Yeah.
Yeah. That could happen.
So, and I also don't know if like Bays would take that deal as an extension. Like being a clutch client.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either. He seems to like it here, but again, I don't know. I don't know what Clutch wants for him. I don't know if Clutch cares that much about Darius in the long run.
He's in commercials, Andrew.
He is.
His star is shining bright. Okay, let's go to Poku, who has a very clear place to split his season.
Yeah.
Which is when he came back from the G League.
Yep.
It's been 16 games. Prior to that, he had played 36 games. Again, just as an overall marker, double-digit games. He had 3 double-digit games in those first 36 games. He's had double digits in 12 of his last 16 games.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Points per shot attempt. This is so funny to me. 36 games, first 36 games, 82.7. You give Poku 100 shooting possessions, he's going to score 82.7 points, which is in the first percentile. First. Which is you want to be a 99th percentile. He was in the first.
It's a ticket.
He cannot be worst.
It's a ticket back to Europe is what that is.
And that's why, I was saying, like, is he going to get his option declined?
Yeah.
Because if he had stayed in the first percentile, like that's as bad as it can get. Now he is now up to 109.9, which is 21st percentile. Still not amazing. But again, one of the things with Poku to keep in mind is he gets lumped in with bigs. So like bigs tend to be more efficient as scorers. So his percentile numbers are going to tend to be lower for certain things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Because guys are hitting like 60% of their shots.
Yeah. Yeah. So just something to keep in mind. That is a huge improvement, obviously.
Huge.
He's assisting more. Assist percentage is up. Turnovers down. That combination, I think, is really good. The fact that he went from 11.6 assist percentage to 13.7. Meanwhile, his turnovers went from 16. He was turning the ball over on 16.4% of his possessions. That's now down to 13.4, which is you're going from the 24th percentile to the 45th percentile. So that's a big improvement.
Yeah.
His effective field goal percentage, which takes into account the extra point you get from threes, 41.4%, which was the second percentile. It wasn't worst in the league, second percentile. Now up to 53.6. We know he's had a huge improvement in 3-point percentage, 23% to 35%.
Yeah.
The free throws, which he just wasn't shooting free throws in general
Still
across all of these, but it's very funny the difference. He went from 41.7%, which is the first percentile, to 82.4%. But again, this is like super low.
Yeah.
Similar to Bays.
I was going to ask you. I asked Joe Masato this question yesterday, but do you know how many total free throws he's taken this season?
So he's played
52 games.
I would guess it's like 65.
He's taken 31.
Okay, it was lower, a lot lower than I thought.
He last season in 45 games, how many free throws do you think he took?
In 45 games? 20?
42. He's actually taken more free throws this season than last season, or last season than this season, I mean, which is kind of mind-blowing because he feels more normal this year.
He does, although, and we'll actually, so I'll get to it right now. His shot profile, like what has changed from the beginning of the season, it's not around the rim. He's taking the same percentage of his shots around the rim.
Mm-hmm.
It's his threes, which all come from non-corner threes. He's taking the same percentage of corner threes. It's that his threes in general have dropped off, and those have changed into short mid-range, which short mid-range is defined as 4 to 14 feet from the basket on cleaning the glass.
Mm-hmm.
They've gone from 18% of his shots to 30% of his shots. I don't necessarily know this is a great thing because I think it says more about like his inability to get to the rim, which is where you typically would be fouled, or his unwillingness to go to the rim. And that comes back to like the strength question and like his ability to challenge guys at the rim. Like he doesn't really do that.
No,
he is not someone who seeks out contact. And I think that increase in his short mid-range shots is kind of indicative of that. Like he's stopping short of the basket and trying to get a shot there instead of challenging someone at the rim.
Yeah, he actively avoids contact on both ends. And to his credit on the mid-range, though, he's got that pull-up in his bag. And I think that is going to be a weapon for him. It looks pretty smooth. So I don't hate that much.
So if you look at accuracy at the rim, he's gone from shooting 60% to 70%. Very nice.
Very good.
Short mid-range, which is that area we just talked about, he went from 35% to 44%.
Yeah.
Which, like, whatever, like, solid.
Yeah, it's
for what he's doing right now, and the fact that he's taking like a decent number of shots there. Again, I don't know if that's where you really want him taking 30% of his shots.
Yeah,
but he's at least improved there. It's not like he's clanking it every single time.
Right. Yeah.
And then the other thing, this is similar to Bays, he's getting assisted way more on his finishes. So similar to Bays, doing less of these like Poku drives, Poku ISOs that are very fun, no doubt. He had a funny one against Charlotte where he ended up on the ground when he tried to drive on someone. But so at the rim, when he scores at the rim, he's assisted now on 55% of those attempts versus 43% previously.
Yeah.
In the mid-range, he's assisted on 71% of those attempts versus 60% previously. And now from three, he's assisted on 100% of his three-point attempts versus 89% previously. So no matter where he is on the court, he's playing more within the flow of the offense. We're seeing less alpha Poku, which, you know, you kind of miss that a little bit. But I don't know. It just speaks to me of a player who's learning how to play basketball on a team as opposed to whatever he was doing last year, which was exciting.
Yeah.
Because the ceiling of that player felt like, you know, there was no ceiling, Andrew.
That's right.
Because this could be, what if he's a number one guy?
To quote the great Michael Jordan, the ceiling is the roof.
I don't necessarily feel that way about Poku anymore, but I feel way more hopeful about just his future as an NBA player because he seems to be learning how to play, and maybe that will come later. You know, maybe his, you know, point Poku, alpha Poku, maybe that comes later.
Yeah, I mean, we just need to establish that he at least belongs first before we.
Yeah, which I would say over this recent stretch. So this is, and again, it's 16 games. We talked about the caveats with just being like the tanking season.
Yeah.
11, 6, and 2 on 47, 35, 82 shooting splits. Like just as a very basic across the board, like that's solid. Everything there you're feeling good about for this player.
Yeah. I mean, pre-All-Star break for him, 5 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist on 38% from the field, 27% from 3.
Yeah, and even more than like the counting stats, it was those percentages. It was like if he cannot be just a 35% 3-point shooter, like none of this really matters.
Or even, I mean, you can't shoot less than 40% from the field.
Right.
You just can't do that and last in the league. And that's also like to bring up Trey. Like Trey's everything looks awesome all the time with Trey, no matter if he's making or missing. Like it always looks good. But he's got to start making his shots because he's shooting worse than Poku on the season. Like he's got to start making shots.
Speaking of like,
people are really high on him, and for good reason. Like he's had good games and he's a good player and he's like a more easily projectable player because of the style that he plays. But man, he's got to start making shots.
Did you see Jackson Frank wrote a Trey Mann article today?
I have not seen it.
It's basically like what we talked about, like going back a month now, the idea of like, you really do have to watch him because if you just look at the stats, there's nothing that's going to pop off the screen at you.
Yeah. I mean, you look at his pre and post All-Star break, 8 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist pre, and he's shooting 36% pre All-Star break. Post All-Star break, he's 13-4 and almost 13-4, which is like, oh, that's pretty good, but he's only shooting 28% from 3.
Yeah.
Which he's just, again, if he wants to be the guy that everybody on Thunder Twitter says he is, like you got to make your shots.
But at the same time, like we obviously gave Bays and Dort like a lot of time. Like we watched them clank a ton of threes.
Yeah.
And for Trey, like, he didn't really play at the beginning of the season. So this is really the beginning of his rookie year still. I mean, we're still however many games into this. So I agree. Like you watch him and you can only say it looks good. Like the process looks good so much before he eventually does have to start finishing these. And frankly, I feel way more confident about his 3-point shot than him finishing at the rim because I still think he's trying to figure out how he should finish at the rim. He'll have plays where like, this is hyperbole, but like he'll have like a Kyrie-esque move at the rim with a really crafty finish, and you'll be like, oh, okay, that was really nice.
Yeah.
And then the next play down, he'll try something else, and it just like won't go well at all.
Yes.
So he has to. He's still working on figuring out like how do I finish at the rim because I think he has the craft.
Yeah,
he has the ability.
Yeah.
It's just he's trying so many different things, drive to drive, on how to finish.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just think like it's the same thing that all the guys from last season, like last season's rookies, like he and like Jeremiah and guys like that are going to face it in the next couple of years too, because they don't have so many draft picks. It's like your position or your future with the Thunder is not secure, And I know a lot of people would think like, oh man, Trey Mann's going to be on this team in 5 years and he's going to be really great. Your future's not secure here. You have to be good. And that's the one thing that's kind of cool about this process with the Thunder is like, if you're going to make it, you have to be good because there's somebody next season coming for you. And that happened with Teo. Teo's position, he's pretty much out because of the way that Trey's played. But Trey hasn't played so well that it's like, okay, like Trey Mann, future Thunder 6-man or future Thunder whatever. Like it's not secure. It's really not.
And I would say the difference, because obviously we've had to evaluate like a ton of these guys. I mean, I think about comparing him to Bays. The difference for me with Trey right now is that the flashes are equally about the end result as they are about the process.
Yeah.
Like you see the skill with Trey, where a lot of times early on with Bays, it's like he makes a corner 3 and you're like, or I'll have a game where he makes 2 corner threes, and you're like, oh, if he could hit a corner three, like the sky's the limit for Bays.
Yeah.
But it was always just like, oh, he would have a good game shooting or something, or he would have like a really nice dunk or something like that. Where I feel like with Trey, it's not just when he has a step back and makes it. It's like, wow, look at the space he created on that. He can get to that whenever he wants.
Yep.
He can get by guys whenever he wants. Like, yes, we need to see the finished product, but the process is like the foundation is already there. He just needs to obviously finish all of these things off.
Yeah, there's not moments with Trey that you have with Baisley or even with Poku where like that when something is getting started for Baisley or Poku at times, you're just like, oh no, like here we go. Like I know what's gonna happen. Like I already know where this is headed. And with Trey, like I said, everything looks good. Everything is smooth. Everything is like high level. But sometimes he'll have like the all-star start to his play with the like G League finish,
Yeah. He like knows what he wants to do. It doesn't feel like experimentation with Trey as much.
Yeah.
In the way that it often feels like experimenting with Poku or Bays.
Yeah.
Like they're just trying stuff. Whereas it feels like Trey already knows what he wants to do and he's just seeing if he can pull it off.
Yeah. And Mark talked about this maybe a couple weeks ago or a week ago. I can't remember when this was, but he said, like, what you see Trey doing, he said, we're not developing that. He said, that's why we drafted him. We drafted him because he does these things. The things that we're trying to develop are defensive habits, intensity on both ends. Like those are the things that we're working to develop. We're working to develop like good habits with him. But the reason we drafted him is because he can create space and he can shoot the three and he can, get to wherever he wants with his dribble. Like those are the reasons we drafted him. We actually can't really develop those things. Like we can't make a player like that. If we could, then we would just be calling guys up from the G League and paying them nothing and teaching them how to do it. But like those are the reasons that you draft those guys.
And a sentence from Jackson Frank's article today that basically sums it up. He says, a lot of what he sees, talking about Mann, a lot of what Mann sees and how he moves feels inherent as opposed to acquired. Like those aspects of Trey Mann's game are something that he has had probably going back to being a kid playing basketball. They are not something that he has like learned suddenly in the NBA.
Right.
And that's what's exciting because some of those things are already elite level, but they're not scoring they're not scoring the basket. But the moves themselves, like getting that space is elite. That is an elite skill. Now, if you never finish it, it doesn't end up mattering. But that's what gets you so excited.
Yeah. And Trey even said that this was maybe a month ago. I asked Trey, like, when did you start doing the step back? Like, where did that come from? And he like sat there for a second. He's like, I guess I've just kind of always had it. It's like, I've always done this. It was not something that I started in high school or something. So I thought that was interesting. All right. Thanks for listening to our show today. Hope you guys have a great Wednesday. Thanks so much for tuning in on the stream. If you aren't subscribed to our YouTube channel, you should go do that. Just go to youtube.com, search Down to Dunk, hit the subscribe button. If you hit the little bell, you'll get a notification when we go live. And you can join us. We have Jake Arndt, we have Chadamus33, Dude Buffet, Hoopstock69, Andrew Hoyt, Jay, Alex Sayer, Bradley Watkins, Spencer Smith is here, Grape Ape, David the Fluky, he's from Germany. He says Guten Tag from Germany. Tyler Nevins is here. Chris Smith. Tyler Field says, what's up, y'all? Let's see who else joined the chat. Professor Oak is here. We have Anchovies 86. I'm Michael is here. Ethiopia is here. Wow. PT Quillen is here. Thank you for tuning in on YouTube. We'll talk to you guys on video.